Everybody, you're very welcome to a new episode of Music Evolves. I'm Sean Martin, your host, where on this show I get to explore the world of music and creating music, recording music, uh, performing music, listening to music. It's all in my head, all stuff that I love to do. But more specifically, I'd like to connect to technology and how we can leverage technology to push the boundaries on all those things that I just mentioned. And I think music clearly has an impact on individuals and societies and humanity at large. And I think the more we understand how music plays a role in our lives and how technology can help, in my opinion, better our lives. I work better when I have music going, and I feel better when I play certain types of music. And I think a lot of people listening probably have some of the same things. And my guest today, Shagghie, we've actually talked about that a bit, and on previous episodes on this show and other shows, for that matter. And I'm thrilled to have you back on. It's good to see you, my friend.
Me too. Yeah, it always feels like coming home when I'm on this show with talking to you. Yep.
And yeah, people may not realize, but we talk in general as well, and that's kind of the trigger for this conversation. Some of the work you've been up to and the research you've been doing. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Totally connected to what I'm doing on this show. So let's rap about that. So before we get into it, maybe a few words about some of the things you're doing musically. I know you actually record, you play,
Yeah.
perform, all kinds of your artistic, and in the broader sense, music being part of it.
Yeah.
Also creative in other things you build. So maybe a few words about some of the things you're up to, and then we'll get into the topic.
Yeah, I mean, music is just, it's life for many of us. A lot of our conversations in years past have been in like the cyber community, and there are just so many people. Let me just make sure my laptop's plugged in here properly. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, that low battery warning, I realized, okay, it wasn't actually plugged in. Um, yeah, sorry about
Well,
that. So yeah,
it's always power. That's going to be the demise of society.
well, you need electricity. That's
I
one of the
know.
stronger forces we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, music is life. Always has been. I, classically trained on the trumpet and went into jazz, marching band. Then I got into the blues, really, really heavy, and I was actually, by others' accounts, pretty damn good at one point in my youth, right around upper teens. And then I moved from the Caribbean to the United States, and when I did that, the guy that was packing up my two horns, which were my cherished one was a flugelhorn Chuck Mangione model, like a very special model. The other one was a gorgeous Bach Selmer horn with the sweetest tone, silver horn. And the guy packing up was asking me questions about him. He was super enthusiastic, and he was about all this talk about his sons that were learning to play trumpet. And all that happened. I got to the United States, and everything arrived except for both instruments.
I
And
remember that story. It makes me sad
right,
every time
and
I hear it.
and and I remember this is like for me the peak of my blues era. And you would think I would just buy another horn and start playing the damn blues after that, but I actually got so hurt, so painfully hurt, that I promised I would never play the horn again, in spite of, despite the world. Like I don't know, where there's no rational reason why I did that, but I did, and it wasn't for about 25 years before I picked up another horn again later on in life. Actually, when we have my daughter who's now playing the horn, thank God. But she's
There
like,
you
"Daddy, you have to play the horn." I'm like, "All right, I'll play the horn."
go. Play for me,
So,
Dad.
so music is life, and music is this constant rhythm, right? That takes you through your life. You can remember your life through the lens, if you will, or the sonic lens of music, wherever you were and what you were doing. And it's just this impactful thing for all of us. And the real question we'll talk about today is, why is that the case from a spiritual perspective, from a scientific perspective, from a physiological perspective, from a even larger quantum galaxy perspective, right? It's studying all the quantum forces that are at play. And that field of work is what got me into this current conversation we'll be having. But yeah, my music background is also techno. I'm a live techno producer. Like Sean said, I've played live shows with all the instruments. I was doing that back when only a few guys and gals were doing that, way, way, way back, when like late 90s, early 2000s. And now it's quite common where people bring their boxes and they play, and half the time it still sucks. It's not as good as a DJ set for the people dancing. But if you're into the kind of the artistic,
Hmm.
in the moment, creative side, it's much like going to see your favorite jazz horn player, where they're improvising and they're vibing off of you, and you're vibing off of the fact that it's unscripted, it's not pre-recorded, it's live, right? There's a certain fascination we have with live music, that anticipation, that space between the notes when you're not quite sure how they're going to hit you, right? And that's why I've always been a live player, because I've always just, maybe from my trumpet background, appreciated that liveness aspect to it. um
And then
yeah,
the cool
so
thing with the techno and the synths and all that stuff is, I mean, I I dabble in it and I record some stuff from it, but just the idea of performing just blows my mind. There's no way I can even wrap my head around the ability to do that, because
yeah,
I think the cool thing about it and the powerful thing about it is you can push the limits on things and end up in a place you never expected. And
yeah,
to your
nobody expected,
to your
yeah,
point, that may or may not be what the listener is expecting at the time, and
yeah.
so a good a good performer will have the ability to work that. Right.
My pinnacle moment in my life was actually on a birthday. I played a live show with like 6 drum machines and synthesizer sequencers at a pretty big club in San Diego. And my parents showed up, and they didn't really know this musical side of me. They kind of left off at that old horn stuff, right? They knew I did techno, but that's all, it's a statement, right? It's not a reality. And their mind were blown. By then, by 2 a.m., they were sweating and dancing and screaming, and my own parents. And I was just like, I've arrived, you know. And it's one of those bucket
Right.
list moments where you're just like, no matter what else happens to me the rest of my life, or if I die today, I feel like I'm understood. My parents
Mm.
know me. That was a profound moment, for sure. I mean, talk about complexity. I even did a show downtown Houston at an art gallery, and I brought a modular Eurorack system this big, with, you know, literally many, many dozens, maybe even 100 interconnecting wires on logic circuits and audio circuits and modifiers and all the modulation you do in that kind of context. And I created like a live techno acid, you know, 303 acid type of vibe set. And I think I pulled it off. I would say I hit the 70 to 80% of what's possible mark. In your
Mm.
mind, you always think, I know I could have done better. I know it could sound better if I just kind of went this direction instead of that one. I mean, you're making 1,000 mistakes per second. You know what I mean? It's all real time. You have infinity possibilities, infinity soundscape. I mean, literally, that's why I shifted from hacking the planet and cybersecurity to becoming a synth person, a subtractive, you know, additive synth, FM synth person. I literally studied synthesis in its rawest form at the modular, the lowest level of componentry. Even designed those circuits for that whole industry for a while. And that is part of what I'm drawing from when I'm looking at this, the idea that vibrations, or what we loosely call frequency, how we measure these damn vibrations, happen across the whole spectrum, right? That's not just sound, it's also
Right.
light, and
Yep.
it's above light, and even infrasound, which is below sound frequencies, vibrations that are slower than what we can hear. But realizing that they're all vibrations nonetheless, and they have this perfectly analog linear scale. Like we say, we measure frequencies, but there's really an infinite number of frequencies on that scale, an infinite number.
Right. We just
And
have
they're
them
only,
marked where we can do something with those markers.
yeah, in a decimal system, right?
Yeah.
Like we can refer to that frequency with some confidence, right? Yeah, but yeah, so it's this realization that this whole massive frequency, from the lowest ones that have to do with how the galaxies spin at the oscillations so low that it would take infinity lifetimes to even experience 2 beats, right? All the way up to the frequencies that are so high you can't even fathom how fast they're at the quantum level, right? The oscillations that still to this day defy our ability to even measure the intervals. They're so high, right? They're so, and also so random and hard to observe without affecting them, right? The quantum problem. Um, yeah,
And
so
very,
that's,
very different, but like dogs hear things that humans, right? But That's pitch, but is it that also frequency? Is that why the certain animals hear different things? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, animals amazingly operate in some of them. We can, uh, with high confidence, infer that they have a quantum portion of their brain. Um, even a hawk, uh, rather, was no, it's the falcon rather. They've measured the ability of a falcon to descend off of like a hot air balloon from their trainer and retrieve an object that's been thrown down with great force that's hundreds and hundreds of yards in front of them. They're the fastest animal in the world, the way they can defy gravity, almost go faster than what they should be able to, based on the contours of their body as they're tucked. And they can intercept that object, and there's no way their brain, the size of it is operating in a classical, transistor synapse level, right? People have always, humanity, we've always thought the brain as being a computer, and the larger the brain, the more intelligent something is, but it's absolutely not true. There's a quantum level that allows our brains to operate regardless of the mass of the brain matter, of the gray matter, right? And there's people that have either been born this way or through an accident have lost vast portions, like 95% of their gray matter, and are still high IQ, fully functional, fully operational individuals after those events or being born that way. So there's always been something going on. We're finally unlocking and fully studying and codifying, if you will, what the quantum consciousness is. That thing that keeps us connected, that allows us to know when something on the other side of the world just happened, that gut feeling, that ability to have a gut feeling in the first place. It's all quantum driven, right? So it's and quantum operates still off of vibrational frequencies as well. um States of your brain's consciousness, alpha, theta, beta, those inference lower than audio frequencies, like 1 to 3 hertz versus 20 hertz where you can hear, right? So it's something lower than that affects literally your state of mind. And that state guides everything about the rest of your brain. It guides your dreams. It drives your body's physiological ability to heal or not. It just drives your whole body, your whole corpus, your mind, your body, everything. And it's all about frequency, what frequency it's operating in. Yeah.
And we were talking about it the other day. It was your daughter that said, listen to a good, quote unquote, a good song, and I
Oh
feel
yeah.
good for the day, right? And
Yeah.
I
She came
just said
down the stairs also excited about it.
it. Yeah, and I feel the same. And sure, it's the melody, the beat, whatever, the lyrics, whatever that somebody's going to tap into that they need to get that feeling. But it's
Yeah.
more than that, right? There's a sound or a level of yeah, the frequency perhaps has. And I remember there's I think it was a thing on Instagram. I think I mentioned this the other day when we were talking, where a guy was saying that most popular songs end up, even if they're recorded in a different pitch or different frequency, they readjust them to actually
Yes.
hit properly, hit
They
to become a
retune the
hit,
whole song. Yeah.
retune. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Well,
what
what is
do you think?
music but frequencies and intervals, It- aka rhythmic intervals between words? Like, a lot of people don't realize, in vocals is one of the hardest things to get right when you're producing music, right? As a music producer. And what I found is that the best vocalists are not the ones that are pitch perfect, but they're the ones that have the best timing, the best. They play like a jazz instrument between the spaces of the rhythm that's structured underneath them. And that's why, like Sade, her drum and bass, if you just the concept of drum and bass, right? The structure, foundation, but then on top of it, it creates a canvas where you get to bob and weave and play in between the spaces. And if you listen to Sade and think about it through that lens, it's amazing what you'll hear. Same thing with Miles Davis on the horn. It's not the notes he's playing, it's the notes he's not playing. And it's the spacing between the notes, the timing against the drum and the bass. That is what really makes music feel alive. It's what makes you lean into music. It's the whisper, if you're not the shout, right? There's very few songs that are loved that are just in your face and super structured, right? There are a lot of songs that have this dynamic understanding. Like, so when I mean, this conversation goes a thousand places at once, which is why I'm like stumbling. My brain is going so many places at once. Um, but like, even when I was doing public speaking, Sean, you've been with me on my journey long enough to know that I started with great fear in public speaking. What unlocked it for me was this, I wish I could remember his name to give him credit, but this, I believe he's a Vietnamese guy that didn't even speak native English, that said, I want to go to America and I want to be wealthy and I want to succeed. But he was a magician. And some of you listening might recognize who I'm talking about right off the bat, but he basically teaches people how to do public speaking by focusing on 5 areas of the voice. And as long as you're focusing on your own voice, whether you're lowering your voice or increasing your cadence or pitch inflections, like he teaches you about how to use all 5 things. And me being an audiologist, for lack of better words, it resonated with me and it just unlocked my whole public speaking career. I was no longer afraid. In fact, I was anxiously eager to get on stage. I was like, you couldn't keep me off the stage because I was able to like present with dynamicism and make the message actually resonate. And you think about that back to where we were just talking about uh, voice, words are extremely powerful forces. We know this sadly through people that whose parents were verbally abusive or their spouse, right? Um, in even a child's voice, the words they say at the right moment with the right inflection, even if they say it softly, can hurt a parent's heart to the point where they need a week to heal afterwards, even though the child's innocent, right? So voice is extremely powerful because it brings in all the elements of sound design. Our vocal cords are very powerful in how they can articulate their rhythmic capability, their ability to pause, to whisper. There's so much going on with just the voice that our brain is tuned to as well, which is one of the reasons why music hits us so hard. Is our brains are tuned to understand sound at the level of what I call force. Sound is literally a force. And when you go down the study, that maybe we can transition the conversation at some point, but into what I've been doing in the white paper I've written and all this stuff, it's all about how vibrations affect the human mind, the human body. And then at some level, it's easy to get spiritual with this whole thing as well, which is another level of consciousness or quantum consciousness, transcendence. There's a lot of, this is ancient stuff. This goes way back, well before modern history, right? This goes back thousands, millennia of years. So,
Yeah.
um, but
I want
sound
to,
is not to be underestimated as a force.
yeah. So I want to talk about the sound because the example I gave where they're pitching and adjusting the, uh, the recording to hit a certain level that they know will resonate with a wide audience. Um, and Marco, my co-founder, and I, we talk about this, and there's a lot of stuff that we see online as well, where like analyzing a Beatles song, where why did why did John throw that note in there? It makes no sense, right?
Right.
It doesn't connect with all the rest of the notes in that, but it works.
Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah,
same.
Jimi Hendrix, same. I was just Trey Anastasio from Fish. I was at a performance with him the other day, and he on his guitar and a keyboardist. They were doing basically a dueling thing, and the the notes didn't work together. They were completely at odds, but they worked together. And
Yeah.
there was a big drum and percussion thing underneath it to kind of keep things rolling and kind of people within it. But you're listening to it and like that doesn't sound good, but it sounds good. And
Yeah.
then and Trey at the end of it, he says, I can't remember, I wish I remember the keyboardist's name. He says he's the best skunk slinger or skunk, yeah, slinging the skunk by the tail person I know.
Yeah.
But
Pulling
it,
shit out of his.
yeah, you just making it raw and nasty, and the nastier it got, and the more competing it got with the guitar, it was just it worked. But I guess my point is, it gave me a feeling of energy and a bit of discomfort that at the end of it you're like, wow, that that was
So
amazing. Yeah.
the there's this idea of happy accidents in music
Mm,
creation, right? There's another idea that's very similar to that my jazz instructor taught me a long time ago, and he was like, if you're playing a solo, you got all your support, chords and everything else around you, and you play the wrong note, don't stop playing that note. Hold it for as long and use whatever inflection you need to make that note on purpose, and trust your gut through it, no matter how wrong the note is, whether it's ill-timed or the wrong pitch, just the wrong fucking note. Don't stop and just hold it, because, like you said, things that don't make sense are what we kind of crave. And what we crave really is the artist to have enough confidence to define the moment for us. In techno, we used to say I was floored, literally in raves in the 90s, when the beat hit right and the DJ literally dropped the perfect drop. We would sit down to show respect, sit on the ground and stop dancing. It's literally, when you're saying that track, it floored me, it
mhm.
literally means sit your ass on the down, because you're submitting to the idea. Submission as a listener is really important. Like, you can go in headstrong and try to analyze, which is what often happens when you produce music. You listen to something and you're taking it apart, you're analyzing it, you're trying to understand it, but instead of just actually submitting to the music, right? I have to switch that part of my brain off in order to actually experience music. I'm sure you do too, right? It's same thing with
Yeah,
photography. Like, it's hard to look at a photograph, you being a photographer, and not analyze it, with the wrong part of your brain, right? Versus just experience it
right.
first.
Yeah,
The discipline.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. I mean, we feel, and I'm certain everybody listening uh, will know that they feel music, right? And it touches them in a certain way, and it gives them a certain response. Um, it's not just the gut. There's a reason behind it. So let's talk about some of the work research
Yeah.
you've been doing, and how that connects to the physical aspect of who we are.
Yeah. So the what's amazing about the era we live in right now is, and I think AI has a lot to do with it, it's progressing scientific discovery at a rate that was just unimaginable 5 years ago, right? So in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a massive amount of very significant, hard-hitting research that should inform us going forward. It's almost like we need to delete all of the books that we've studied in the past, almost delete them and start anew. That's how fresh quantum physics is. That's how fresh even the research just on sound and healing is. It's affirming what we've always kind of intuited. To your point, like, well, I like how I feel when I listen to this track, or right, but it's affirming it scientifically, right, in a way that's irrefutable, endures the test of time through thesis and study. So I would say that we're in this special era, and that's really been beneficial to me. And I think we're on the cusp of where we're going about to go in this specific field. And I don't know even how to define this field other than it's all of frequency. So the visual spectrum, which sits obviously above the audio spectrum, it's the infra audio, which is below the audio, and it's even the ultra high frequencies that are above visual, right? And you look at the body of work on how certain frequencies affect the body, and the mind, right? But we'll just focus. We have to break this conversation apart somehow. So we'll start physiologically. If you take just, I think examples are the best way to tell the story. I can't summarize 5 months in a 55-page white paper on the podcast, but if you take just like, well, let's use techno, a kick drum. Those are usually tuned between, like, um, 30 hertz up to maybe 100 and 110 hertz, right? A kick drum. That's the bass that's hitting you in the thump. Well,
Hmm.
that thump in your chest is right where your body's resonant frequency of about 100 hertz is, right? So some 100 hertz frequency hit you so hard, they literally heal your body. This is why people like are bass addicts. Like there's a genre of music called bass music. It's just about bass that hits you and makes you feel good. But now we know scientifically that 40 hertz is a universal healing frequency. We've known that all the way back to looking at ancient the Hermetics, like way back a long time ago, the Solfeggio scale, a long lost scale that you don't hear in pop music, right? Because it's not tuned to A equals 440. That Solfeggio scale, each one of those frequencies now has, and through scientific research, each one has scientifically studied to produce certain discrete physiological benefits to the human body at a cellular level. And that frequency is a scale that has been used throughout thousands of years to get to present as healing. There's churches that were acoustically tuned so that it would amplify those solfeggio frequencies, right? This is ancient science now being, I guess, almost vindicated is one weird word to say, because I personally looked at a lot of that stuff as foo-foo, esoteric, cool idea. It's probably right, even, but I don't really care. And I've changed 180 degrees to holy shit, this is going to unlock what we need in humanity today more than ever. I'm taking a full swing, and um, so like 40 hertz, back to the kick drum, hits you in a healing frequency. Just below, above 40 hertz is 50 and 60 hertz. And what does your power run on? 50, 60 hertz, right? In Europe, it's one, and here it's another. But that those frequencies happen to be incredibly damaging to your body. Being exposed to those frequencies brings about depression, a bunch of other studied physiological and mental harmful outcomes when you're exposed to those frequencies. So I've been like, when I produce music, this is an analog to the protocol that I'm writing. I'm literally writing a protocol for all of this, like, throughout the entire frequency spectrum, that I can't talk too much about because I'm doing it for a company, literally as a full-time job. But there are sets of frequencies in the audio range, since we're talking about music and this is the show, that are absolutely healing, and there are other frequencies that are harmful. And when you're watching a horror film and they bring in that bass, guess what frequencies they're bringing in, right? Like Hollywood, the best studios, the bigger studios, have known a lot of this science for a long time. There's a whole, like, when I'm doing this research, there's all these tangents that spider off. A lot of those tangents are a whole volume of conspiracy theory, you might call it, that talks about the CIA and Ultra MK32 and like MK Ultra, all of these things that were using light and sound frequencies that were meant to help control the population, right? But by the same mechanisms, right? But through the same science, if you will, right? So what we're creating is the inverse of what has been used historically, according to conspiracy theory, right? To control and harm humans, right? Weapons, for example, the stuff that happens in Havana, those frequencies, we're using the inverse of those frequencies to create a protocol for media that only brings about what we call joy. It's called the joy protocol. That's about the most I'll say. um Specifically in music, you can create sounds, almost like you're saying about retuning, what they're doing now.
Yep.
Well, instead of just retuning to a scale that aligns with the song before and the song after and brings about the most amount of harmonic congruence, which is what those algorithms are doing. Because like the same song in a different scale has more or less congruent frequencies. By congruence, we mean intervals that produce harmonics that are sound good, for lack of better
Yep.
words, that are even harmonics, right? So it's well, you could talk about the geometry of music and the universe, for that matter, as well, with the study I've been doing as well. Like um uh I think it's 538 frequency is one of them, or 528, I forget which as I stand here, but um that frequency is extremely healing to the human body. It's right in the middle, right between 20 hertz and 20,000. It's of audio range. It's right in the middle. We can hear it perfectly, and it's super healing. But that frequency, if you go up a number of octaves, perfect musical, mathematical octaves, you reach a light frequencies that is one of the most healing frequencies for your body at a cellular level
Hmm.
when you
And
expose your
as long as
cells
you
to
stay
it.
within the octaves. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is an absolute set of geometry that governs all the way down to the lower frequencies. You take the resonant frequency of the whole Earth, this planet that the human civilization has been born from and evolved through. That's 7.83 hertz, right? It's below what you can hear at 20 hertz at the bottom level of what we can hear, but it's definitely something that you feel. It's a very powerful, it's a low frequency, right? Low frequencies travel far. So our atmosphere and our earth creates 7.83 hertz. That ends up being a fundamental for a whole set of healing frequencies above it as it happens. Two of those are in the solfeggio scale that we were just talking about as it happens,
Wow.
right? So our body has been looking for these geometries to ground us. If you think of it almost like a computer, what hertz is my clock running on my computer? Back in the 90s when I built computers, we got up to 200 hertz, and oh my God, we were ecstatic, twice as fast as 100 hertz. But it's these geometries are the true clock. It's not the frequency; it's the geometry, just like phi, right? That curvature and
Hmm.
that we observe in the universe at the macro level, all the way down to the smallest quantum particle levels. You see that phi curve. And that is basically the universe's what we see as humans measuring things through our senses. It's not a causal thing. Phi doesn't cause congruence. Rather, it's symptomatically how we observe congruent structures of universal intelligence, quite frankly. Like it's literally the whole thing. It's it's the answer at every single level from macro to micro. And that same geometry is reflected in octaves and harmonic intervals, etc., that we love in music.
So my brain's already fried.
Sorry,
No,
I
it's
had
good.
to stop just because that one we'd go down 10,000 other
I
avenues.
know. I have
Yeah.
10,000 in my head, probably 10,000 different from you. Um, I'm gonna say a couple things here, and we'll figure out where we go next. Because I let's just see. So the first thing, and it's not sound. It's light and power. Um, I have this thing that's this company's building that's using hundreds of LEDs, and they had some quality control issue that forced them to refactor a bunch of stuff. But the general gist of it, I think, was that the level of power to the circuit of LEDs um, wasn't set quite right,
Okay.
which let them burn or let them light, but not consistently, not
Yeah.
for an expected long period of time. And so they actually found that dropping the power level gave them consistency they wanted, and also the longevity that they were wanting.
Yes.
So in there's that. Let's just leave it at that. I don't know your thoughts on that
Yes.
connected to music and frequency and all that stuff.
Well, it's literally the perfect analog to what I'll share, which is that remember music is frequencies, but also intervals. It's also dynamics, right? Loud and soft. If you look at all the studies, there's one thing in common, which is what you just referenced, which is that it's not the frequency as much as it is how long it's applied and how intensely it's applied. The energy, whether it's a light source or it's sound, frequency matters, right? Intervals matter, and dynamic or power level matters. And every single one of those studies, there's the three common denominators, which I'll say too much if I tell you how that would apply in the protocol I'm building, right? But yeah, it's there for a reason. So what is it, 630 to 660 nanometers of light? That's it, like your reddish light.
Mm-hmm.
That's a super healing frequency, but there's actually five red area frequencies that are individually do different things at a cellular level when your cells are exposed to these things. All five are healing, beneficial, positive outcomes at a cellular healing level, right? When you combine all five, however, there are harmonic synergies that happen that where the sum of the five is much greater than five. right? It's some exponential higher. So when you're talking about red light frequencies, like the interval matters, how intense, to your point, to that story you just told, matters, but also the combinations of the frequencies at the same time. Go figure. Back to music.
Mhm.
That's what a chord is, MFR. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about the relationships. That's geometry that heals, right? It's not the frequency, it's the frequency in relation to everything else going on in that cell and all of those geometric relationships. Even at the quantum level, why do we feel like the human brain could possibly be doing what we call quantum compute? Well, you can't hold quantum state at room temperature or at brain matter temperature, right? You need to freeze that shit super cold to hold a quantum state long enough to compute. That's what mankind would have thought just a few years ago, even. But now with the study of quantum consciousness, realize that there is a lattice structure in these protein microtubules that we have that is constructed so geometrically perfectly, it can hold a quantum state regardless of the temperature. Okay. So there's even a scientist that's looking at a certain asteroid out there. This is going to sound super esoteric because it is, but and he, through some of the image, what is the asteroid that we sent a space vehicle out to study? I forgot the name of the asteroid, damn it.
Uh,
But we literally studied an
uh,
asteroid, took pictures of it up close and all this stuff. And part of the asteroid has this crystal lattice structure in it. And it's structured in a way that the scientist went way out on a limb on it to in the context of quantum consciousness to suggest that asteroids might have consciousness. Why not? Right? If all you need is a certain lattice structure that geometrically produces quantum state, now maybe their reality as a rock is not that of ours, where we have five senses to worry about and put together into a stream through something we call time, right? For linear evolution of our existence. The rock might be stuck in a quantum state without any other senses beyond the cold air of space,
right.
so that not the lack of air hitting it, right? Like, and the light from the stars. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't hold a quantum state sufficient to have a weird form of intelligence, right? That's how far out on a limb the guy went. But that's only he couldn't even go out on that limb until we started to realize that the human mind and also certain other species of animals hold quantum state in their damn minds, right? It's
Su-
uh
Super interesting, and
yeah.
I'm gonna bring it to the other extreme now, and kind of go back to the scale that you mentioned earlier, and kind of the sound. And I'm thinking the sound bowls.
Hmm.
There are sound rooms, and I wish I have a good friend that she does. She's basically a musical health therapist,
Yes. Oh.
and I wish I had a chance to ask her what does that mean technically. I think that the ultimate
Some of
is
them know, some of them don't. I
yeah.
have a yoga instructor here, knows exactly how to work the bowls and
Hmm.
what to do, but doesn't hasn't studied it, I guess, at a scientific or academic level yet. I have, because I take those yoga classes with those bowls, and in
Hmm.
Shavasana I do go places.
Yep.
Um,
My
and
friend is actually works in the healthcare system.
Oh, so she. I'm
C
not.
plus, no.
I don't know
So
about your friend. I just mean like
yeah,
this person didn't,
yeah.
right? But it's a lot of those frequencies align to the ancient monks.
Hmm.
That you know what a mandala is? It's like a geometric shape. Sometimes it looks like a lotus flower of or triangles and whatever. It's a mandala, right? The ancient monk mandalas.
Yep.
I, through my study, reverse engineered to what cymatic frequencies those mandalas actually represent. Like, why is that geometric shape important in the first place? The answer: sound, right? If you don't know if you're listening, you don't know what cymatics are. You've seen it, you know what it is, but it's just like if you take sand on a drum, like a stretched drum, whatever you call the top of a drum,
Yeah.
and you play certain frequencies, it will form these geometric shapes. Same thing with water or any liquid substance. And that study is called cymatics. So through the geometric shape, you can actually reverse engineer and infer what frequency or set of frequencies, right, created that mandala. And some of those frequencies are the same as with yoga. Yeah.
So interesting. And there I know there are sound. I'm trying to remember the name of them are the sound rooms where they're I don't know they're basically big sound sound healing spaces.
Yeah.
I'm gonna imagine. So I guess kind of to your point, the sound and the frequencies have an impact. Um, you mentioned some conspiracy stuff. I don't necessarily want to go down the conspiracy theory part, but so there's being passive in life and letting the sound and the frequencies and the vibrations do whatever they're going to do to us,
Yeah.
and then there's um, yeah, being an aggressor in
Yes.
that, or using that
Proactive. Yeah.
to yeah, you mentioned to control people.
Yeah.
Um, I'm thinking government, but certainly in the media, right? To get people to want to buy stuff
Yeah.
or that kind of thing. So what what are you thinking in terms of in the intent behind some of this stuff?
Well, on the conspiracy side, geez, I have to switch my brain over to that chapter, right? Because, um, okay, forgetting all the rabbit holes my brain was going to go down. So, yeah, I mean, I don't go down those rabbit holes too much. I know enough to know that they exist, that there are people, large groups of people, entire populations that are online populations that are very much convinced, convicted, whatever word you want to use, that this thing is not only real, but it's hitting people today as we speak, right? So they're the stuff that happens in Havana with low frequency sound stuff that made everybody sick, and they continue to be sick to this day. When I was working at I don't mind saying the name, Boozow Hamilton, way back in 2000, right? They gave us a demo of this new technology at the time, and they brought two speakers that were like panel speakers, and they brought us into a room, and this was a weapons application, not to kill people, but to mess with them, right? And these two panels, if the woman holding them turned up the amplitude to 1 on a scale of 10, right? So it's the lowest level that the damn thing could operate at, where you could still hear it. And it was the weirdest thing in the world. She was able to literally make us all sway our heads and do crazy stuff with these two panels, bouncing them off the walls, crossing them over right to where your ears were, which made us nauseous, literally almost to the point of salivating like you're about to throw up before she back off. We had the signed waivers and all this stuff. It was profoundly eye opening, to your point, for me at that time, that early in my career, my life, to say that is how powerful sound is. That's used for crowd disruption, but also if you have a building, you can literally use these panels. It creates a linear laser, if you will, of sound, where if you're literally a few inches away from that laser of sound, you can't even hear it. So it could pass right by you and hit its target, and you can't hear it. That's how that technology works. Like, actually, how it works, I forget. But it creates some kind of vacuum in front of it that just draws the sound through.
Hmm.
I can't remember, right? But so if you have a building here and you're going to approach this building as, let's say, a platoon, you have somebody else over there with the speakers projecting at high volume the sound of tanks rolling in from that sound. And all enemies, of course, will look that way and anticipate while you approach from this other side, right? That's some of the kind of theoretical application for this stuff. But yeah, it's used in sound disbursement too. We call it the brown note, and there's been studies on whether or not it actually causes you to defecate. I know I went to an Iron Maiden concert in the 80s and I almost defecated. Don't know if it was the brown note or it was just the 60,000 watts of sound that broke the Guinness Book of World Records after that concert. That changed my life. I'd never heard a wall of sound like that. It was just like all frequencies from just those several instruments. I couldn't. It's amazing. It's
Intense.
probably what led me on this journey, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Uh,
Thinking back, but yeah.
all right. Let's Yeah. I mean, we can go down a gazillion different paths here. But
But control as well as is the whole other aspect of this thing.
yeah.
So not just weaponry, but like certain blue frequencies that hit the certain dopamine receptors at certain intervals make you addicted to that source, right?
Right.
A blue light is not a natural light in nature, very rarely ever occurs. And so when you see that frequency, your body is genetically tuned to absolutely pay attention to that
Mm.
damn thing. And it also creates endorphins. It's a dopamine. The dopamine receptor is the one that triggers the most off of that, and so you become allured, like almost like a muse to a blue light. And electronics manufacturers realized this when we went through the Bluetooth era, when everything was Bluetooth enabled. Part of that branding campaign was to make every LED blue.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Volkswagen sometime in the mid 2000s where the whole dash was blue. I could barely look at the road because the dash was so beautiful. You know what I mean?
It is beautiful. I have a this side I have a blue strip behind me. There's
Yeah,
actually a story about the blue LED that it took ages for them to actually figure out
figured
the
out.
technology to actually create the blue one. All the other colors were easy enough. The white, obviously,
Go figure. Just
red and
like
green,
nature.
just like
Just like
nature.
there's a reason why blue doesn't occur
Yeah,
very often, but
yeah.
it's a very powerful frequency. There's very little healing research around blue light. But blue's not just one frequency; it's a whole suite of them, right? And some of them are extremely powerful. They hit the dopamine. Others of them can be healing at the right interval to help mood, right? Because it is dopamine, and that's what a lot of depressed people need, more dopamine. So they put the blue light on, right? That's what we do. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's part of our journey.
So let's I want you to recall the story about the gym and the machine that you used.
Oh
And then,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I want to hear that, folks, to hear that story, and then we'll spend the next couple of minutes kind of bringing it back to just traditional raw music and
yeah, yeah.
and
I'd
our
love that.
lives with that. But tell the story about the machine and the vibration and the frequency there.
Yeah, so I've been doing this study and understanding how healing 40 hertz. I put the subwoofer underneath my couch. I will literally put on a sine wave. There's websites where you can make it a website play a frequency. So I just go to that website, put in 40 hertz, turn up the sub full volume, and sit on my couch. And it's like a 15 minutes of that is like a full body massage. You literally walk around like He-Man Hulk after that. It feels amazing. So I'm at the gym, and my wife is a certified power plate, instructor, if you will, and that has different intensities and different frequencies. You can turn the dial between 1 and 8. And I was watching it, and the display happens to show the frequency, and I've been always at 8, like max that thing out. You give me the most amount of benefit in the shortest amount of time. But I've recently been putting it at 6. 6 happens to be 40 hertz. It's moving in 4 different planes, XYZ, all four axes, if you will. It's shaking you all different ways to improve your blood flow, and but it's so powerful that it's also kinetic enough to bring you physiological healing at the cellular level. So now I go 5 minutes at 40 hertz and I feel absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I thought in my mind, is it psychosomatic? Is it just what I want to believe just happened? But no, if I go off of 40 hertz now and back up to 8, just to get maybe more of a resistance workout, if I'm using the bicep straps that you can use, right, to work the muscle harder, I literally don't feel good when I get off of it. But 40 hertz feel amazing every time. So these are not coincidences. These
Not
things are,
coincidence.
yeah,
So let's go with that as kind of the theme to wrap. Then I'm thinking. So the whole show is about creating music, performing music,
Yeah.
listening to music. Um, each of those has people have a role in all of them, right? And then we're impacted by those things. So I'm just wondering, as a creator, how does this change how you think and what you do? As somebody who's listening, are there things, if you want to feel good, are there things you can look for?
Yes.
I'm just throwing stuff out there. And then if you're going to a performance, are there things you can do, or as a performer, are there things you should do that will make the crowd respond better or differently? So
Yeah. I
you
mean,
don't have to touch
there's
on all of them, but just it's kind of that general. What do we do with this information?
so I'll answer it in two parts. At a general music theory level, absolutely. And one of the hardest things in the world to do is to produce a song that makes you feel good. It's very easy to produce a song that makes you feel sad or angry or aggro or introspectively like like the darker side of our emotional spectrum. It's very easy to produce those songs. It's very hard to produce music. Traditionally, it has been. Now with AI, it's very easy, but it's been hard to do that. The best songwriter I know, I forget his name. I think his name's Ryan. I used to know for a period of time when I lived in San Diego. He's the main singer from One Republic, the band, right? But what a lot of people didn't know is for a long period of time, and maybe even still, I don't know, but for at least 10 years, at any given time, he had written like 80% of the top 20 Billboard tracks at any given time, right, of pop music. And I talked to him about it over a dinner at the Ocean Air after one of his concerts. And he's like, yes, I have a strong formula for what I know works every single time. He's like, I can't tell you why it works, but I know it works. And every artist that comes to me, I give them back a song with that formula. No matter what they tell me they want to write, they're still getting the formula. And this was a human songwriter that knew what worked and what didn't. More importantly, half of it is removing what doesn't work, right? But now with AI, it's very formulaic. It's frequencies, harmonics, intervals, beats, even the drum kit you use, that not just an eight. So like the 808 is the most popular drum sound you'll ever hear in any pop song, rap song, any damn song, right? It's literally that kick drum that goes boom, and it's that hi-hat and it's that crispy snare. That drum machine has been sampled and resampled a billion times, but certain kits, certain versions of that kick drum, versions of that hi-hat, versions of that snare hit way better and harder than every other 10,000 sampled 808 kits, right? So it's even down to the kits that are formulaic in the music industry today. It's all it's sound is like frequency and volume, like we talked about, but it's also texture. And
So let me,
texture is where you're the nuance of what makes you enjoy a sound a lot of times, or a frequency that has modulation to create texture or not. That's why some people's voices, I mean, as a guy, right? Like some women's voices I'm really attracted to because I'm all audio. I'm not visual at all. I'm audio. And others I can't stand. I almost don't even want to get to know the person because I can't get past just their voice, right? So texture. That's everything in sound.
so what I'm picturing is like a multi-dimensional thing, because I'm just wondering. You said it's harder to get good, so
Yes.
I'm wondering if the range is, and maybe it's infinite range, but range is this, and most of it's bad. Where does good sit? And that's just right within two lines, and you have the texture and the volume and what all the other stuff. But so I'm just wondering, is it a very small sphere within the broader spectrum that
I
that's
don't know
good
the
and
answer to that question. I
okay,
imagine it's a much smaller sphere than what sounds bad.
right?
Right? The good is a much smaller Venn diagram sphere. I applied a lot of what I learned at the audio frequency level of this research to music production recently, and I created a set of tracks that guide you to the different states of consciousness, and they're very heavily tuned. All the bad frequencies are tuned out. The melodic structure is only solfeggio frequencies. I hard bound that, And even some of the rhythmic structures are based on Fibonacci cycles, right? That the human body enjoys, which are, they don't sound structured to most people, but when you're singing and your phraseology is a Fibonacci dot 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 dot, that is very powerful. Some of the best singers do that intuitively, but you can actually count mathematically a Fibonacci in their phraseology. It's fascinating.
Interesting.
So I produced a song using both classical music production tools and frequencies I can tune and instrumentation to certain frequencies that are non A440 scale, like C, D, E, F, G. Like that scale is bullshit. That scale's been around since the 40s or so, in mass. But it's part of conspiracy theory is that Hitler was one of the ones that institutionalized A equals 440, because prior to that, I think it was 438 or something, or another frequency just below above it. That when you look at harmonics, like if you tune a guitar to 440 and you strum it, what you listen for in a guitar is the wood to do the harmonic vibrations that make a guitar sound good to all of us, right? But when you tune a guitar to this other frequency that's been around way longer than 440, it sounds like the whole instrument just comes alive.
Hmm.
It's like it's a new person. It sounds fundamentally different. So, this is when I do music production, I'm actually frequency specific, tuning to that other scale so that the chords, and it's this other thing, if you're doing this acoustically, you can't do this later on in AI. You have to
Hmm.
do it with the actual instrument, because the instrument has an analog infinity resolution scale, and you need the harmonics to actually physically manifest in the wood to create the harmonic effect of a guitar properly tuned.
Wow.
You can't later use AI to induce that. It's one of the only
Great.
left hard limitations that AI is not going to be able to do, is to hit the wood differently, unless we have robots doing it better than we can do it.
All right.
Elon.
Ah, boy. Scott, I don't think I gave you a chance to answer the second part you're gonna mention, but
Mm.
we can keep chatting another time. Let's
Yeah.
I think an hour is a good time to let people kind of chew on this. I'm starting to do. I'm gonna try different tunings on my guitar now and see what happens.
I'll let
Um,
you read the white paper if you want.
okay,
I trust you like a brother.
that'd be
It's
cool.
not going outside to anyone else, but it's up to you. Oh,
All right. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm happy to take a look at that and see what
All
you've been
right.
up to. That'd be super
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, I mean this is mind blowing, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean it's
Exactly. You can't end it better than that. That's full circle my
full
own
full circle.
experience as well. It's like,
Yeah.
how are we not living our lives frequency
Mm,
optimized?
yeah.
Well, there's all sorts of gadgets and widgets and binaural beats you can buy, but you don't actually do the damn thing most of the
Mm,
time,
yeah.
like you
I
were
think
saying earlier.
yeah. I think the other thing that's sticking in my head is when I think of waves and sound, it's a line. And the thing that I just kind of was trying to figure out is it more of a sphere? And funny, we just said full circle,
Yeah.
and then I'm looking at the logo of the show, and it's a circle, just like the record's a circle. CD. I don't know. Um, maybe we're infinitely inside something, not just along a
Yes.
point in on something. I don't know.
Circles are
I'm,
very special
I'm
geometrically
trying to be
for a reason.
philosophical, but I'm probably not doing a great job at it. But anyway, that's what's in my head. I'm sharing it. Make fun of
That's
me
how
on
the
the
aliens talked and communicated in the Invasion series. If you've watched that, that has cymatics and alien communication, and it makes you
Oh,
realize
Cymatics
that
too. There you go. Yeah, the waves are
it's,
actually concentric. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Ah, too much fun, man. Too much fun. And
yes.
not everybody gets the joy of doing that kind of research that you do. So I'm glad you get to, and hopefully you are enjoying it, and hopefully the results are what you want. And I know you're a good dude, and hopefully the results are good for society and humanity, which based on what you shared earlier, I think it is. So
That's all I want, is to be
yeah,
able to do the right thing at scale, so that my daughter grows up in a world that is acoustically healing and
Mm,
beneficial, and doesn't grow up in a world where she's mind controlled and she's getting cancer and her RNA is breaking down because literally of vibrational frequencies
mm,
that she could have otherwise been avoided with. She's using media of all types.
yeah, yeah.
That's the joy protocol.
There you go. Right on, brother. Well, it's I love chatting with you. We could keep going. Um, some people probably still tune in and continue listening, but we'll have another chat for
We'll let
sure.
them go. Yeah.
Uh, we have lots of things we can talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to point people. You described uh, the taking the synths on the road, and one of
Yeah.
our other episodes, you gave me a brief tour of your setup, and yeah, some of the cables and the all the Euro rack stuff. That's
Euro crack is what we
crack.
call it.
That's right.
Euro
Yeah,
crack. Have to buy more modules every
that's
day.
right. So people can look that one up if you want to get a visual of what Scott was talking about there.
Yeah.
All right, Shaggy. Thanks again, man, for having this conversation with me, sharing me what you've been up to,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
hopefully people listening found it interesting. I certainly did. Lots to chew on there, and uh, as you do that, keep listening. If you're up for it, keep creating, and hopefully we'll all keep enjoying music. So thanks, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you.